She woke up in a forest with symbols carved into her palms and no memory of how they got there. 3 months later, an Alpha King ordered her capture. He took one look at her hands and his face went white. Because he knew what she was. The key to the end of everything. The iron collar bit into her throat. Cold metal against warm skin. She could taste blood on her tongue from where she had bitten down too hard. The Alpha stood before her. His golden eyes reflecting torchlight in the dungeon below his fortress. He was supposed to be untouchable. King of the northern packs. Ruler of 10,000 wolves who would die at his command. But Kira had seen something in those eyes that made her blood run colder than the chains binding her wrists. Fear. He was afraid of her. A girl of 20 winters with no pack, no family, no name worth speaking. Yet his hands trembled as he reached toward her face. She jerked away, the chains rattling against stone. He pulled back as if burned. "You should not exist," he whispered. His voice cracked on the last word. Around them, his guards shifted uneasily in their armor. The dungeon smelled of rust and old death. Somewhere in the darkness, water dripped in a steady rhythm that matched her racing heartbeat. She had been running for 3 months. Ever since the night she woke up in the forest with symbols carved into her palms and no memory of how they got there. The symbols that now glowed faint silver in the torchlight. The Alpha saw them. His face went white. "Where did you get those marks?" His words came out strangled. Desperate. She said nothing. She had learned that silence was her only weapon. He lunged forward and grabbed her chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. His grip was bruising. "Tell me." The command rippled through the air with Alpha power, the kind that made lesser wolves drop to their knees and bare their throats. Kira felt it wash over her like water off stone. Nothing. No compulsion. No pull to obey. The Alpha's eyes widened. "Impossible." He released her so suddenly she stumbled against the wall. The guards exchanged glances. One of them, a scarred man with gray in his beard, took a step backward. "My lord," he began. "Silence." The Alpha was breathing hard now. His chest rising and falling beneath his black tunic. The torches flickered. Or perhaps they did not flicker at all. Perhaps it was the shadows that moved. Kira watched them gather in the corners of the cell. Thick and dark and alive. They had followed her since that night in the forest. Since the marks appeared. The Alpha turned away from her, running his hands through his dark hair. 30 years, he muttered. 30 years we have kept the treaty. 30 years of peace. And now you. He spun back to face her. "Do you know what you are?" She met his gaze without flinching. "A prisoner." "No." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Only horror. "You are the end of everything." The shadows in the corners grew darker, thicker. One of the guards made a sound low in his throat. "My lord, the torches." The flames were dimming. All of them. Not from lack of oil. From something else. The Alpha's hand went to the sword at his hip. "Who sent you?" His voice was barely above a whisper now. "The Eastern Covens. The Blood Priests. Tell me." Kira felt the shadows pulse in response to his rising panic. They were hungry. They always were. "I was sent by no one," she said quietly. "I do not even know what I am." "Liar." He drew his sword. The blade sang as it left the scabbard. Silver. Blessed silver that could kill any wolf, no matter how strong. He pressed the point to her throat. The marks on your hands are the seal of the forgotten, the binding that held them in the void for 1,000 years. And you wear them on your flesh like jewelry. The blade broke skin. A single drop of blood welled up and ran down her neck, hot against cold metal. So I will ask you one final time. His face was inches from hers. Who are you? The shadows erupted from the corners. They moved like living smoke, fast and silent. The guards screamed. The Alpha tried to turn, tried to swing his sword, but the shadows wrapped around him like chains. His blade clattered to the stone floor. Kira watched in frozen horror as the darkness covered him completely. His golden eyes were the last thing visible before they too disappeared. Then silence. The torches burned bright again. The guards were gone. The Alpha was gone. Only his sword remained on the ground, still gleaming silver in the light. And the shadows retreated to the corners as if nothing had happened. Kira looked down at her hands. The marks were blazing now, bright enough to hurt her eyes. The iron collar around her neck cracked, then shattered. The pieces fell to the floor with metallic rings that echoed in the empty dungeon. The chains on her wrists did the same. She was free, but freedom felt like a curse. She bent and picked up the Alpha's sword. The silver burned her palm, but she held it anyway. Above her she could hear shouting, footsteps running, the alarm being raised. An entire fortress of wolves who would soon discover their king had vanished, and she was the only one left in his cell. Kira walked to the door. It was locked from the outside. She touched it with one marked hand. The wood aged 100 years in a heartbeat. It crumbled to dust. Beyond lay a corridor lit by more torches. Me. Waiting. The shadows whispered at the edge of her vision. Words she could almost understand. Almost. She took a step forward into the corridor. Then another. Behind her, something moved in the cell she had just left. A figure forming from the remaining shadows. Wearing a crown of darkness. It watched her go with eyes that held no color at all. Only depth. Only hunger. Only memory of things that should have stayed forgotten. The figure smiled. The corridor stretched before her like the throat of some great beast. Stone walls pressed close on either side, slick with moisture that caught the torchlight in orange streaks. Kira moved forward because there was nowhere else to go. Behind her, she could feel the presence in the cell growing stronger, taking shape, becoming real. The sword in her hand felt heavier with each step. Silver should not burn her. She was not wolf. She had never been wolf. Yet the metal seared her palm like she held a piece of the sun itself. She did not let go. Pain was better than emptiness. Better than the hollow feeling that had lived in her chest since the forest. Since the night she woke with blood under her nails and symbols carved into her flesh. The corridor branched ahead. Left led up toward the sound of voices and running feet. Right led deeper into the fortress, toward cold air and the smell of earth. She went right. Always deeper. Always down. The shadows approved. She could feel their satisfaction like warm breath on the back of her neck. They had been waiting for this. For her to stop running. For her to accept what she was becoming. The torches grew sparse. Then stopped entirely. But Kira could still see. The marks on her hands provided their own light now. Silver fire that cast no shadows of its own. Instead it seemed to pull the darkness closer. To feed it. To make it strong. She passed cells on either side of the corridor. All empty. All old. One had scratch marks on the walls that went up to the ceiling. Another had chains that ended in nothing. No locks, no bones, just rust and silence. This was a place for things that should not be remembered. The fortress above was new. Built in her grandmother's time perhaps. But these dungeons were ancient. They predated the wolf packs. Predated the treaties and the peace. They remembered a time when different things walked the world. Darker things. Hungrier things. The corridor ended at a door. Not wood this time. Stone. A single piece of granite taller than 3 men. Carved with symbols that hurt to look at. She recognized some of them. They matched the ones on her palms. Kira reached out and pressed her left hand flat against the cold stone. The symbols flared. Hers and the doors. Light and darkness dancing together. The stone groaned. Sounded like something in pain. Like something dying. Then it split down the middle and swung inward on hinges that should not exist. Beyond was not a room. It was a chasm. A space so vast that her light could not find the far walls. The floor dropped away into nothing. But there was a bridge. Narrow. Made of the same black stone as the door. No railings. No safety. Just a path suspended over emptiness. She took a breath and stepped onto it. The bridge held. Behind her she heard footsteps. Not boots on stone. Something softer. Something that moved without sound but made the air heavy with its passing. The figure from the cell. The shadow wearing a crown. It was following her. She walked faster. The bridge seemed endless. She counted her steps to keep her mind focused. 100. 200. 500. At step 712, she saw the light ahead. Not torchlight. Not the silver glow of her marks. This was red. Deep crimson like old blood. It pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. The bridge ended at a platform. Circular. Perhaps 50 feet across. In the center stood a pillar of the same red light. Solid. Tangible. She could see shapes moving inside it. Faces. Screaming without sound. She knew those faces. The guards from the cell. Alpha. All of them trapped inside the light. Inside the pillar. Alive but not living. Aware but unable to move or speak or die. Beautiful, is it not? The voice came from behind her. She spun. The shadow stood at the edge of the platform. Had taken full form now. Man. Tall and lean with features that were almost familiar. Almost. He wore the crown of darkness like it weighed nothing. Like it was part of his skull. His eyes were empty voids that somehow still managed to convey amusement. You have done well, little key. His voice was smooth. Cultured. It reminded her of winter wind through dead trees. I am not a key, Kira said. The sword felt useless in her hand. How did you cut shadow? But you are. He moved closer. Not walking. Gliding. His feet never touched the stone. You are the lock and the key both. The vessel and the power. The end and the beginning. He gestured to the pillar. They understood in the end. The Wolf King. He knew what your marks meant. He knew what would happen when I was finally freed. Kira's throat was dry. Freed from what? The figure laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. From the void. From the prison your ancestors built 1,000 years ago. When they decided that beings like me were too dangerous to exist. Too powerful to control. So they locked us away in the spaces between worlds. In the nothing. In the dark. He was in front of her now. close enough to touch. She could smell him. Old parchment and burnt flowers. But prisons need keys. And keys can be turned both ways. His hand reached out toward her face. He jerked back. Do not touch me. Or what? He tilted his head. You will fight me. With that toy sword. With your fear. Child, you summoned me. You have been summoning me since the moment you were born. Since before you were born. Your bloodline was crafted for this purpose. Generation after generation, the power building. The seal growing weaker. Until you. Perfect. Pure. Ready. Kira shook her head. I did not summon anything. I do not even know who I am. You are mine. His voice dropped to a whisper. You are the daughter of the forgotten line. The last heir of the blood architects. They built the prisons. You will tear them down. The marks on her hands burned white hot. She cried out and dropped the sword. It clattered on the stone and the sound echoed forever. The figure smiled. There. That is better. No more pretending to be something you are not. No more running from your purpose. He raised his hands and the platform began to tremble. Around them, in the darkness beyond the red light, she heard sounds. Movement. Breathing. Things waking up. There are 12 prisons, he said. 12 seals. 12 locks that have held us for a millennium. You have opened the first. 11 remain. And I am only the weakest of what was bound. The pillar of red light pulsed brighter. The faces inside screamed harder. They will serve as the foundation, he continued. Their life force will power the opening of the second seal. And the third. And all the rest. Until the old ones walk free again. Until the world remembers what it was to fear the dark. Kira felt something break inside her. Not her spirit. Something else. A wall she did not know existed. And behind that wall was knowledge. Memories that were not hers but belonged to her nonetheless. She saw her mother. A woman with sad eyes who died when Kira was 5. But now she understood why. Her mother had tried to fight the bloodline. Tried to refuse the purpose. The marks had killed her for it. Slowly. Painfully. Over months. She saw her grandmother. Stronger than her mother. She had lasted longer. Almost 20 years of resistance. But in the end the marks always won. The blood always called. The seal always weakened. And she saw further back. 10 generations. 20. 50. All women. All marked. All dying young as they tried to run from what they were meant to do. The blood architects had built the prisons to save the world. But they had also built a failsafe. A key that would eventually turn. A bloodline that would eventually produce someone strong enough and broken enough and desperate enough to open the locks. They had planned for their own failure. For the return of the dark. It was inevitable. It had always been inevitable. And she was the culmination of 1,000 years of inevitable doom. Kira looked down at her hands. The marks had spread. They now covered her forearms. Creeping up toward her elbows. Beautiful and terrible. She could feel them in her mind now. Whispering instructions. Showing her where the other seals were hidden. How to break them. How to free the things that should stay imprisoned. No. Her voice was small. Weak. No. The figure seemed genuinely surprised. You think you have a choice. I will not do this. Child, you already are. He gestured to the pillar. The first seal is broken. I stand before you. The process has begun. You cannot stop it any more than you can stop your own heartbeat. She fell to her knees. The stone was cold beneath her. Real. Solid. Unlike everything else in this nightmare. There must be a way, she whispered. There must be. The figure crouched before her. This close, she could see that he was not entirely solid. His edges flickered, faded, came back. He was still rebuilding himself, still gathering power. There is one way, he said softly. Die. Die before the marks spread further. Before you open the second seal. Die and perhaps the bloodline ends with you. Perhaps it will take another 1,000 years to build the power again. Perhaps. He reached out and this time she did not pull away. His fingers brushed her cheek. They felt like cobwebs, like breath, like nothing at all. But we both know you will not. Because you want to live. Even like this. Even as a weapon. Even as the end of everything. You want to live. He stood. The second seal is in the eastern mountains. In the ruins of the spiral city. You will go there. The marks will guide you. And I will follow. We will follow. He gestured to the darkness. To the things breathing in the shadows. All of us. Then he was gone. Not fading. Not walking away. Simply not there anymore. Kira was alone on the platform with a pillar of screaming light and her burning hands. She looked at the sword on the ground. Silver. Blessed. Dark. She could pick it up. Press it to her throat. End this. Save the world by destroying the key. Her hand reached out. Touched the hilt. The metal burned. She pulled back with a hiss. The marks on her arms glowed brighter. Protective. They would not let her die. Not until their purpose was fulfilled. She was trapped in her own body. A prisoner of her own blood. Kira stood. Her legs shook but held. She turned away from the sword. Away from the easy ending. And walked back toward the bridge. Toward the fortress above. Toward the world that did not yet know it was ending. The marks whispered directions in her mind. Always east. To the mountains. To the ruins. To the second seal. Behind her, the pillar pulsed. The Alpha's face pressed against the red light from inside. His mouth moved, forming words she could not hear. But she thought she could read his lips. Run. She almost laughed. She had been running for 3 months. Running had brought her here. To this moment. To this doom. There was nowhere left to run. Only forward. Only toward the inevitable end. Kira stepped onto the bridge and began the long walk back. The bridge felt longer on the return journey. Each step echoed in the vast darkness below. Kira kept her eyes forward. She did not want to look down. Did not want to see what might be looking back up at her. The marks on her arms pulsed with each heartbeat. They were warm now. Not burning. Almost comfortable. That terrified her more than the pain had. She was getting used to them. Accepting them. Becoming what they needed her to be. The stone door still stood open when she reached it. Beyond, the corridor stretched back toward the cells and the fortress above. She could hear sounds now. Distant shouts. Clash of steel. Kiss. The wolves had discovered their alpha was missing. They would be searching. Fighting among themselves perhaps. Fighting over who would lead in his absence. They did not understand that leadership no longer mattered. That the pacts and the treaties and the careful balance of power were already dust. They just did not know it yet. Kira climbed. The corridor sloped upward, gradually at first, then steeper. Her legs ached. She had not eaten in 2 days, had barely slept in weeks. But the marks gave her strength. Unnatural strength. Borrowed strength. She wondered what they were borrowing it from. What they were taking from her in return. The first body appeared at the junction where the corridor split. Guard. Young. Maybe 19 winters. His throat had been torn out. Not by teeth. The wound was too clean. Too precise. Shadow work. The things that had followed the crowned figure out of the void. They were loose in the fortress. Hunting. Feeding. She stepped over him and kept walking. Left this time. Toward the sounds of fighting. Toward the way out. More bodies littered the stairs. Some were guards. Some were servants who had been in the wrong place. One was a child. A girl perhaps 6 years old. She held a wooden doll in one small hand. Kira stopped. Knelt beside her. The girl's eyes were open, staring at nothing. There was no mark on her. No wound. She had simply stopped living. As if something had reached inside and snuffed out her light like a candle. Kira's hands shook as she closed the girl's eyes. "I am sorry," she whispered. The marks flared. Angry. She felt them pull at her, urging her to move. Keep going. The dead did not matter. Only the mission mattered. Only the seals. Only the opening. She stood. Left the girl and her doll behind. Climbed higher. The main hall of the fortress was carnage. 50 wolves or more lay scattered across the stone floor. Some had died fighting each other. She could see the claw marks. The bite wounds. Others had died like the child. Drained. Used up. The shadows clung to the high ceiling like living smoke. They watched her pass with hunger that felt almost physical. She was their key. Their liberator. But she was not their friend. If she fell. If she failed to open the other seals. They would consume her without hesitation. The great doors of the fortress stood open. Cold wind rushed in. Clean air. Sharp with pine and snow. Kira stepped out into the night. The courtyard was empty. The gates beyond stood open as well. No guards. No watchers. Everyone was either dead or had fled. Smart ones. The ones who felt the wrongness in the air and ran. She walked through the gates. Down the mountain path. The fortress sat high above the valley. From here she could see lights in the distance. Villages. People sleeping in their beds. Unaware that the world had already ended. That it was just taking time to fall. The eastern mountains were 3 weeks away on foot. Less if she could find a horse. But horses would shy from her now. Animals always knew. They could smell wrongness. Could sense predators even when they wore human skin. She would have to walk. The marks whispered encouragement. Showed her the path. Fastest route. The safest roads. They wanted her to succeed. Needed her to succeed. Without her they were just shadows. Powerless. Temporary. With her they could become real. Could reclaim what had been taken from them. Could make the world bleed. Kira walked until dawn touched the eastern sky. Pink and gold and beautiful. The last beautiful thing perhaps. She found a stream and drank. The water tasted of stone and ice. Real. Normal. She sat on the bank and watched the sun rise. For a moment, she let herself imagine a different life. One where she had never woken in that forest. Where the marks had never appeared. Where she was just a girl with no family and no prospects. Or struggling. Free. But that life had never existed. She understood that now. The marks had always been there. Dormant. Waiting. Growing stronger with each generation until they were ready to manifest. She had never had a choice. Had never been anything but a weapon waiting to be fired. A door waiting to be opened. Key waiting to turn. Movement in the trees behind her. A turn. A wolf stepped out of the shadows. Massive. Black as night with eyes that glowed amber in the dawn light. Not the alpha. This one was older. Guard. A survivor. It watched her without attacking. Just stared. He stared back. "Go away," she said quietly. "There is nothing for you here." The wolf's lips pulled back. Not quite a snarl. Not quite a smile. Shifted. Bones cracking. Flesh reforming. In seconds, a man stood where the wolf had been. Maybe 70 winters. Gray hair pulled back in a warrior's knot. Naked but unconcerned. Wolves never were. "I know what you are," he said. His voice was gravel. Rough from years of howling at moons. "Then you should run." "I am done running." He moved closer. Slowly. Hands visible. Non-threatening. "I was there when the seals were made." Kira's breath caught. "That was 1,000 years ago." "Not quite." He smiled. It was sad. 973 years. Give or take a decade. I was young then. Stupid. I thought we were saving the world. He sat on the bank beside her. Close but not touching. "The blood architects came to us with their plan. Told us they could lock away the old ones. The shadow lords. The void dwellers. All the things that fed on humanity like cattle. All they needed was time. And power. And blood. So much blood." He looked at his hands. Old hands. "Guard. We gave them what they asked for. Wolf blood. Human blood. The blood of things older than both. They built their prisons in the spaces between heartbeats. In the pause between breaths. In the moment between thought and action. And they sealed them with the lives of volunteers. Good people. People who believed they were making a better world." Kira felt cold. "The pillar." "Yes." He nodded. "The first seal required 50 souls. They went willingly. Stepped into the red light and let it consume them. Let themselves become the lock. Eternal. Aware. Suffering. But keeping the shadows bound." He turned to look at her. The architects knew it would not last forever. Nothing does. So they built the failsafe. A bloodline that would eventually produce a key. A way for the seals to be unmade if they became more cruel than what they imprisoned. A mercy. Or so they told themselves. Kira's throat was tight. It is not mercy. No. It is doom wearing mercy's face. Because the shadows remember. They remember every moment of their imprisonment. They remember who put them there. And when they are free, they will destroy everything. Not quickly. Not cleanly. They will make it last. Make it hurt. Because that is what they are. That is all they are. He stood. "So I will ask you a question, child of the forgotten line. And I want you to answer honestly. Do you want to save the world?" Kira looked at her marked hands. "It does not matter what I want." "Wrong answer." His voice hardened. "It is the only answer that matters. The marks control your body. Push you toward the seals. Give you strength and direction and purpose. But they cannot control your mind, cannot make you stop thinking, cannot make you stop looking for another way. So I ask again, do you want to save the world? She met his ancient eyes. Yes. Then listen carefully. He crouched before her. The seals cannot be remade. Once broken, they are broken forever. But the old ones are not yet fully free. They are weak, rebuilding. The crowned one you met is the least of them, the weakest. He needed you to open his prison because he lacked the power to do it himself. But the others are stronger, older, meaner. They will not be so easy to release. Some of the seals require specific conditions, specific sacrifices. If you can disrupt those conditions, if you can deny them what they need, you might be able to slow them, perhaps even stop them. Kira shook her head. The marks will not let me. They will fight me, kill me. Perhaps. He shrugged. But perhaps not. The architects were clever. They built contradictions into the bloodline. Mercy and cruelty. Hope and despair. The need to open the seals and the desire to keep them closed. You are not a simple key. You are a choice. Made flesh. And choices can always go either way. He pulled something from behind his back. A knife. Not silver. Something darker. Older. The blade seemed to drink the light. This is void iron. Forged in the same darkness that holds the old ones. It can cut what cannot be cut. Can kill what cannot be killed. Even shadows. Even marks. He offered it to her. Handle first. If you truly want to fight, if you truly want to save the world, then you will need to cut out your own heart. Kira stared at the blade. What? The marks are not just on your skin. They are in your blood. In your bones. In the core of you. The second seal requires the key to stand before it. To let her blood flow freely. To offer herself as the opening mechanism. But if your heart is gone, if you are dead but not dead, walking but not living, then the seal cannot be opened. The condition cannot be met. And the old ones stay locked away. He pressed the knife into her hand. It will hurt. More than anything you have ever known. The marks will fight you. Try to stop you. But if you are strong enough, if you want it badly enough, you can do it. You can cut out the key. And lock the door forever. Kira looked at the blade. Her marked hands. At the old wolf warrior with his sad eyes and his impossible solution. How do I cut out my heart and not die? You will die. He smiled. But not all the way. The marks will keep you functioning. Keep you moving. They need their key. They will not let it break completely. You will become something in between. Not alive. Not dead. Not quite human. Not quite monster. But you will be aware. And you will be free. Free to walk away. Free to let the seals remain forever. Free to let the world keep turning. He stood and stepped back. It is your choice, daughter of architects. Open the doors and let the darkness flood in. Or close them forever and lose yourself in the process. But choose quickly. The crowned one is already hunting the second seal. Already gathering power. Already preparing the way. If he reaches it before you, if he finds another way to open it, then all of this is meaningless. The world ends either way. The old wolf shifted back, bones cracking, fur spreading. In moments he was animal again. He looked at her one last time with those ancient amber eyes, then turned and loped into the forest. Kira sat alone on the bank with the void iron knife in her hand. The sun was fully up now. Birds sang in the trees. The stream burbled over stones. Everything was normal. Everything was beautiful. Everything was ending. He stood. The marks flared, sensing danger, sensing betrayal. They burned hot, warning her, commanding her. She ignored them, lifted her shirt, pressed the tip of the void iron blade against her chest. Just above her heart, the marks screamed, not in her ears, in her mind, in her blood. They showed her visions, the world burning, everyone she had ever known dying, all because she was selfish, all because she chose herself over humanity. She pressed harder. The blade cut skin, drew blood, black blood, darker than it should be. The marks were already changing her, already making her less human. More key, more weapon, more doom. The pain was extraordinary, beyond anything she had imagined. It felt like she was being unmade, unwritten, erased from reality one cell at a time. But she did not stop, did not pull back, because the old wolf was right. This was the only choice that mattered. The only choice that was truly hers. She could be the end of everything, or she could be the end of herself. Those were the only options. Everything else was illusion. Kira pushed the void iron deeper, felt it scrape against bone, against the cage that held her heart. The marks fought harder. They seized her muscles, tried to make her hand pull back. But she had spent 3 months running, 3 months fighting, 3 months refusing to give in. She knew how to resist, knew how to endure, knew how to choose pain over surrender. The blade cut through her sternum. She screamed. Birds scattered from the trees. The stream seemed to flow faster, running away from what was happening, from what she was becoming. Her hand reached inside her own chest, fingers closing around her heart, still beating, still alive, still trying to keep her functioning. She pulled. The world went white, then black, then something else entirely. The void iron blade fell from her hand, clattered on the stones beside the stream. Kira collapsed to her knees. Her chest was open. Me. But she was still aware, still thinking, still here. The marks had gone dark. Not gone. Just silent, dormant. They pulsed faintly beneath her skin like dying stars, powerless without the heart to anchor them. She looked down at her hand. What she held. Her heart still beat. Once. 3 times. Then stopped. The flesh turned gray, then black, then dissolved into ash that the wind scattered across the water. The wound in her chest began to close. Not healing. Something else. The flesh knit together but left no scar. Left nothing at all. Just smooth skin where the opening had been. As if her heart had never existed. As if she had been born this way. Hello. Me. Free. Kira stood slowly. Her legs felt strange. Her body felt wrong. Like, too light. As if gravity had loosened its grip on her. She took a breath. Not because she needed to. The need was gone. But because she remembered how. Because breathing was what living things did. And she wanted to remember what that felt like. The sun touched her face. Warm. Real. Beautiful. She could still feel it. could still experience the world. But from a distance now. Through glass. Through water. Through the veil between life and whatever she had become. Sound behind her. He turned. The crowned figure stood at the edge of the trees. His void eyes were wide. For the first time he looked uncertain. "What have you done?" His voice cracked. She met his gaze without fear. "I chose. You cannot choose." He moved forward. Angry now. Desperate. "You are the key. You are mine. You will open the seals." "No." The word was simple. Final. She felt no compulsion to obey. No pull toward the distant mountains. No whisper of purpose or direction. Just silence. Just peace. Just freedom. The crowned figure lunged for her. His hands reached out. Tried to grab her. To force her. To reclaim what he thought he owned. His fingers passed through her. Like she was smoke. Like she was shadow. Like she was nothing at all. He stumbled. Fell. Landed on his knees in the stream. The water hissed where it touched him. Steam rose. He looked up at her with something that might have been fear. "You are dead." "Yes. But you are walking." "Yes. That is impossible." Kira smiled. It felt strange on her face. Like wearing a mask she had forgotten how to adjust. "You are imprisoned in the spaces between moments. And I am dead in the space between death and life. We are both impossible. We are both contradictions. The difference is I chose mine." She bent and picked up the void iron blade. It felt right in her hand. Natural. Like it had been waiting for her all along. "The seals will remain closed," she said quietly. "You will fade. Return to the nothing. And the world will keep turning." "No." He tried to stand but could not. The water held him down. Weakened him. Without her heart to anchor the marks. Without her blood to feed the opening. He had no power here. No claim. No purpose. "You cannot do this." His voice was fading. Growing distant. "The others will find a way. They will break free. They will destroy everything. Perhaps." Kira sheathed the blade in her belt. "But not today. Not through me. Never through me." The crowned figure screamed. It was a sound of pure rage and pure loss. The sound of inevitability denied. Then he was gone. Not slowly. Not gradually. Just erased. Pulled back into the void that had held him for so long. The shadows in the trees retreated. The wrongness in the air lifted. The world breathed again. Normal. Beautiful. Alive. Kira stood alone by the stream. The sun climbed higher. Morning became day. She knew she should feel something. Relief perhaps. Victory. Pride. But there was only emptiness where those feelings should live. Only the hollow space where her heart had been. She had saved the world. But lost herself in the process. That was the trade. That was the price. She wondered if it was worth it. Decided it did not matter. The choice was made. The door was locked. And she was the key that could never turn again. Kira began to walk. Not east toward the mountains and the second seal. Not back to the fortress and the bodies and the blood. Just away. Into the forest. Into the world. Into whatever came next. She did not need to eat. Did not need to sleep. Did not need anything at all. So she would walk forever perhaps. A ghost in living flesh. A warning. A monument. A reminder of what humanity could do when faced with impossible choices. They could choose. They could sacrifice. They could endure. Behind her the stream flowed on. The birds returned to sing. The forest grew quiet and peaceful. And deep beneath the fortress on the mountain, in the chasm where the pillar of red light pulsed, the faces inside began to fade. The Alpha and his guards, all the souls trapped to power the opening, they dissolved slowly, peacefully, released by the breaking of the key, released to whatever came after. The pillar dimmed, flickered, then went dark. The first seal remained, would always remain, but the prison was empty now. The lock was closed, and the key was broken beyond repair. In the eastern mountains, the ruins of the spiral city stood silent. The second seal waited, would wait forever, untouched, unopened, eternal. And in the void between worlds, in the nothing, in the dark, the old ones raged. They had been so close, so very close. But the key had chosen differently, had chosen herself over destiny, had chosen emptiness over purpose, had chosen the world over the darkness. And that choice echoed through the void like thunder, like hope, like light. The old ones would rage for 1,000 years. For 10,000 years, for as long as rage could last. But they would remain locked away, forgotten, fading, until eventually even their names were dust. Even their memory was ash. Even their threat was legend. And the world would turn. And humanity would thrive. And nobody would remember the girl who walked away from her heart. The girl who became hollow to keep them whole. The girl who was the last daughter of the blood architects. The girl named Kira, who chose. And by choosing, saved everything. By losing everything. Kira walked through the forest as the sun climbed toward noon. She did not look back. There was nothing behind her worth seeing. Only forward. Only onward. Only the endless road of a life that was not quite life. Of an existence that had no end. She would walk it alone. But she would walk it free. And that was enough. That was everything. That was the only thing that mattered. The marks on her arms faded to silver scars. Beautiful. Powerless. Permanent. A reminder of what she had been. Of what she had refused to become. Of the choice that changed everything. She smiled. Still felt strange. But less so now. And she kept walking. Into the light. Into the world. Into forever. Free.